it's just like, I also kind of feel like it might be awkward for people to come on, and like, I know that there's nothing that I could really do for it, but there's gonna be like a year jump where it like started in 2015, so it like has 15 to 16, 16 to 17, and then we're just gonna go, here's a 19 to 20, so like here's our actual site, and like, you can tell like kind of when it was also like time framed, so it basically looks like Twitter. That's how it mainly looks like. It's more of like a blog site than like, it's not like, oh, here are our sponsors, here's what we do, here's like our safety rules, meet the team. Like it has almost none of that. It only really has a home with stuff on that there, and then photos that you can click on.
So it's like, it depends, I guess it's kind of like what you want the purpose of the site to be, because like, if you want it to be like almost like, I know our 341's website, like we have like a pretty expansive like history section, just because I guess our team's pretty old.
Like we archive it, so we don't. So something that you could do is obviously trying to, if you want to, stray away from the blog style. You can kind of turn your website into like static pages, which I think helps not only to make it more professional, but it synthesizes the information in one place. So if you weren't making blog posts from like 17 to 18 and 18 to 19, you could definitely make static pages that maybe summarize what you did those years and then put them in like a drop down or in some other menu so that your website isn't constantly changing. Because I think when people want to log onto a website, they want to know where things are. And when they see a blog post and then they log on 3 weeks later and suddenly it's on the 3rd page backwards, like it makes it really hard to access information that you need. So maybe making your website more static helps a lot, and it would fix the history problem.
That's not to say that you have to like get rid of the blog. Like we have a blog on our website.
It's just on a separate.
Yeah, like we have like our homepage with like just like a lot of general team info, because I think when people Google like a robotics team, like the stuff they want to know is like, oh, like where are they from, like how many people are on it, like where are they competing. So like that's what we keep on the first page, and then like for people who are more interested, we have stuff like team history stuff. We have like what students are on what sub team, and then we have like our blog section. So like it's really just a matter, I think, of like team preference.
Yeah, I think our team is also kind of on the same page as you. Like we're redoing our website, and we do have like a couple of years where there is nothing, and we're doing exactly what they said. We have like a page of history where we kind of summarize everything. So even if we didn't have a blog post like last year, we have like a summary of like what the competition was.
Yeah, that's cool. So does anybody have any like other questions?
What's the general overview? Like, what are you going to be going through this meeting?
I mean, I'm not leading it or anything. I'm just, I was just wondering if you had stuff to add. Yeah, this is like a conversational. Did you get, so he came and he explained that's going to be a conversational, so like anybody can talk whenever. Just wanted to know.
We're well, compared to all of you, we're like a baby team. You have stuff where you started your website in 2015. We started our team in 2015.
Oh, we had ours really before. It's just that nobody thought that there should be a public image that's like really wasn't stated, because I feel like there's always this sense, at least for a team, where we're like, yeah, we should probably get our like name out there. Like we should probably get this thing. Like, but then it's like to the question of like, how do we make that happen? Like, should we make our own website, or should we just stay onto social media trend sites where we are like having a Facebook and having an Instagram, and then like you try and control those two. But then I think it also gets then to the point where once your name you feel like is out there and like you've pushed enough to like get your name like at least known into into your community or like your region, then like at that point, I don't know if you've become almost like successful in your first goal, but you've become like known, and that's like sort of the point of media, like to become known and to become a name that people will recognize.
Well, this is my second year with the team, and before me, nobody was interested in any of it. Now, the upside now is there's 5 or 6 members of the team that are in FBLA, and so they're looking to just kind of create like the resume and portfolio of things that they've done, and so hopefully maybe this year I won't have to write all of it.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't even necessarily say from the beginning. We had an interesting meeting with the founder of our team, and he was explaining how in our earliest years we had no image, and like at that time it was like 2004 or 5 in first, And it was really difficult to actually get to know other teams if you didn't have an identity associated. And that's kind of where Miss Daisy sprung from, because as people became more familiar with our logo and our name, it's very catchy in comparison to what was going on at the time, which was like more like super hyper masculine names and things of that nature that were like the fighting robots or the, you know, whatever. So our name stood out, and I think that's what, especially when scouting wasn't popular, our name is what got us into a lot of alliances at competitions because people recognized us. So I think like there's no, you really can't underestimate the importance of a brand, especially on robotics teams, because if you have an image to uphold, it makes everything, it adds an additional push to everything you do, because not only are you working for your team's success, but you're working for that image and upholding it. So I think like media and public relations together, like they work hand in hand, and they build that really important brand that you need.
Look at my school, I'm pretty sure 80% of the students don't even know we have a robotics team.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And it's,
We're loud.
We are very loud
Like
in our
we're
school.
loud too. We yell at assembly, we don't even
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing right now is, I think that the importance of IC building up all of this, whether people are watching or not, is in recruiting sponsors.
Yeah.
Right.
The idea of, we say we have this website, we give them a link and they look at it and it's there and it's real. They're not saying, well, but I'm only the third person who's looked at this.
Yeah.
You know, it's, that doesn't matter to them.
Yeah.
We're giving them everything that we're promising that we're giving them. Now, I gotta be honest with you, you know, I'm not that straight out saying, yeah, you're not gonna get any business because of people coming to your website from ours.
Right.
But the type of thing where you can now put up on your website that you're a proud sponsor of our team, and they can click on that link and they'll come to ours and they're gonna say, yes, this is everything we think it should be. And, you know, it's, you know, I was doing I do a monthly newsletter, and it's, like I said, it's sent out district-wide, and I'm thinking there might be 4 or 5 people that actually read it. But we hook somebody new every time, even if it's just one teacher who's now, you know, printing it out and putting it up on their bulletin board and things like that. So it's a really, really slow process, but.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time to build a brand. I know, like, our team isn't associated with the FLL teams that we have at the middle school, but some of the kids help out over there. And earlier in this year, I asked the coach, I was like, I noticed that you guys don't have a website, and none of the kids in the school know that you exist. So right now, I'm doing some photography for them and trying to build their website, and it is really hard starting from the ground up, because like, these kids are rotating every year, so you can't really get a ton of input from them on what they want, because like it's pretty personal. So there's a lot that goes into like developing a brand and a website of some sort that can like stay for an extended period of time. So yeah, I just think that the whole process takes a long time, but in the end, it's really worth it.
We're also like pretty restricted on what we can put on the site. I mean, it's a few page document of all the things we're not supposed to put on there, but it includes identifying people by name.
Right.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, so we have to get really creative with the picture captions.
Use titles. Like
Yeah,
say,
Yeah,
drive
like
team or-
our media captain, our build captain is
Yeah.
doing this.
Our school,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
just, we can only use first names.
Yeah, well, that's not like a rule. We just, as a team, we just use first names and last initials, just in case, like, when you're older and you're like interviewing for jobs, they look up your name. Your blog posts from our team aren't coming up. But other than that, like, we do have a little bit of freedom with it. But yeah, that's definitely hard. For sure. So, does anybody have anything to add on the subject or something different?
We're here for
Websites,
others.
do you guys use a vendor to create that website for
Use
you?
Word-
Like,
so
use
WordPress.
We use WordPress, but we go
Okay.
through another thing. It's called Dream something. I don't even know what it's called. The website itself was like built kind of by our head coach, so I don't know a ton about it, but in terms of the interface and updating it, we go through WordPress. And most of what we update is blog posts. We write a lot of blog posts, but every year we do need to add a static history page and you know, things of that nature. So I think most of what we do is WordPress, but
Yeah, WordPress is really nice too, and I think I don't know how expensive it is, but like we do like have our own like full domain, like it's not like Team 34 like .wordpress or anything. We do have like a full domain that we were able to purchase a few years ago.
I think you just pay for the domain, but I think the actual WordPress, if you can find a way to get it, that's
Mhm.
really cheap, if not free.
There might be premium versions as well.
I can look it up.
But like
But
also
other-
WordPress is also on other places
Mhm.
too, because like WordPress, would you count it as like the coding of it? I feel like it's almost like the
It's,
written makeup.
it's more so like the version of WordPress that we use has it's more building the interface without the HTML or the code behind it. So it's like they've built this system where you essentially just type whatever you want on the page. You don't have to do any coding, and you can drag around boxes that say like media, gap, and then it's like text, gap. So like you can do stuff like that. It's very blocky. So that's how we work with it. But I think it is WordPress tends to be more of like the front of the website, and then there's more that goes behind it.
It's like a .com website, like just for the domain on WordPress is like $18 a year, which is like
It's worth it.
not expensive at all. That's like very manageable. I don't know how much the hosting is. I think it would obviously like depend on like how intricate your hosting is or like how much you're trying to do with the site. But like I think there's
It might be called Dreamweaver. Now that I think about it, hold on, I'll look it
well,
up.
we'll figure it out.
I was trying to think of what it was called.
But like there's so many like different
no, that's an
platforms
Adobe
that-
thing. Oh no, maybe it is Adobe Dreamweaver. I have no idea.
You know, like there's so many different platforms you can use those, like especially for a robotics website, like if you just want like info about your team and blog posts, like you don't need anything particularly like intricate. No, we like to have like we have some funky stuff on there we like to have, but like just a simple WordPress website can 100% serve the purpose that you guys need.
Even something as simple as, I'm gonna sound like probably every single YouTube app, like Wix.com.
Yeah.
Wix.com,
Yeah, Wix
you
is
can
good.
customize it any way that you want it to be, but like, it's like actually true, because I had to do it for a project once. It's the same thing, except it's already free, and it gives you like a random domain, but like, you can actually bookmark it, and you can like test it out without like buying a domain first.
Mhm.
And you always have that option of buying it, if you feel like that you should make it into like your own and like individualize yourself. But like with that one, it's also, how it basically works also on Wix.com is that it has portions where it can help you simplify options. So you can choose a template for a specific thing. And like when you literally create the site, it will say, do you want a blog page? Do you want a normal page? Do you want a schedule or a calendar? And it will already implement it in there for you, so you don't need to try and find a way how to create that system.
Wix is really nice. Wix helps you keep organized really easily.
Mhm.
We just use Google Sites.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works
Cause-
perfectly.
cause
I think
frankly-
that's what I'm building FLO on right now. Yeah.
Because it's, among the other restrictions our school has is basically everything that goes out, social media or anything, has to go through the coaches on the team. And I mean, they're worried about what students put on the site. And
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
there are plenty of activities where, yes, you should worry about the students putting, but the robotics team, you know, it's,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
you're talking
I
about.
wouldn't say
Our
it's
stuff
kids
really-
that are trying to break the law.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking about the large portion of the AP students.
Yeah. And I think our posts and stuff really only have to go through like our head coach, who's also like our media coach.
You just
So-
We're not posting anything particularly spicy, like
Yeah, no, but it's-
robot photos, like
Ooh, green
But no,
light.
but
ooh, revision.
We have to keep in mind that individuals who have images put out on the internet, even whether it's
Right.
specific or not, have some kind of legal documentation.
Yeah. Well,
We
that's,
just like sign away our rights in the beginning. of the
that's
season.
something that the school actually does. There's this huge thing that parents have to.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, they usually get that signed off on the,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they can use your image for school activities, which is what it is.
And like it's not like we're posting pictures of the kids like without asking them first. Like they
Yeah.
can very clearly see us taking pictures of them. Like we're not hiding.
If they're showing something like
True,
that,
but I
yeah,
mean-
they'll say, don't take a picture, and I'll say, okay.
We're like, don't post this, and we won't. Like it's, you know, we keep all of our pictures on like a public Flickr, which like, I don't think gets any traffic from anyone who's not on the team. like it is cool for the team because we've got it going
We use
back.
it a lot. So.
Yeah, we use it like.
So, okay, how do you guys organize your media teams and push media out to the public?
Google Drive is our main thing. We mainly have a media folder in there.
Right.
So anybody who takes pictures or videos, we then put it into the very looking organized folder.
Yeah.
Once you go into a folder, it's not as organized yet. But yeah, and then we have like 15 people because that's also where like our coaches come in. Because
Right.
like that's sort of how, it's weird how like our team works at least because like coaches and mentors, like they don't actually like play really a big role into it. It's mainly students. They're just there for legality reasons.
Yeah.
Like you can't have like 20 kids that like are 15, 16, 17 with like 3 18-year-olds like walking around at an event that like
Mhm.
can't drive themselves and things like that. Or like they are the ones that make sure that like look at everything and have all the passwords to everything. Like that's because that's also like a thing to be concerned about, like graduates still having passwords
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
like
we
No,
accounts.
we changed those so quick.
Yeah, we change our passwords like I think every school year, and you know, we have like most of our team communication. We have like a very like old-fashioned like forum,
Mhm.
and like we kick kids off that real quick. Like the day of graduation, it's like you're out. No, not the day of graduation. Like we kick them out like once the school year started.
off-season.
Yeah, because we let graduated seniors go to stuff, like if we have off-season events over the summer. Because I know we went to did we go to one or two this summer? It was like Capital Cup,
Yes.
we went there. And we did let people who had already graduated go to that, but then we kicked them.
So, for your media teams, like, would you consider them well-established sub-teams, or
Or are
like
you
something
guys,
that
like,
are
fresh?
like,
Do you have a
resources
lot
are
of people
allocated
on
to
that?
them?
Yeah.
Or do you have like one person?
It's like me, but
Is
it's
this-
okay because I
is
like.
12 weeks old well established?
Yes, very.
I don't know. I think basically for our team, like people will take pictures because that's what they do at competitions,
Mhm.
and I'll like ask people to like put it in Slack or like send it to me, and I'll like put it in our folder. But it's mostly just me, or I'll like the mentor will be like, "Oh, do your post a social media thing," and I'll do that.
Mhm.
No, I think,
What do you
like with the
guys-
kids that are here today, it's like they have an assignment to take 10 pictures of anything today. And then
Just
share
on
'em-
their phones and stuff?
Yeah, with their phones, and then share them with the,
Yeah.
we have a photo share file, and then
Mhm.
it's.
We should have done that.
So
I think we're really lucky. Like our head coach, like she works in like the graphic design industry. So I know she was an alum of the team. I think she graduated a while ago. No, she's not old. But
This is being filmed.
She,
We're
so,
sorry.
like, she works at like a graphic design company, and like her husband does like video editing and video production. So we're lucky that we have a lot of resources. Like
Yeah.
since they're both in the industry, they're able to get things like cameras and tripods, and we were able to just get like a new lighting set. And they have a lot of like technical skill that they're able to give us. And since we've been established for our media team, has like
So,
That's why you always have
You were
those
saying
videos
something?
at your events now.
we have a lot. We have a,
yes,
Yeah.
I'll get into that.
Ask you guys about like your video production because I know your cinematography is like really good about like I was thinking about maybe doing like vlogs for a team or things like that, and I was wondering.
I've wanted to do that.
Yeah,
I keep
so
forgetting
I'm
to.
I'm sure you just have good lighting. That's like the main
Yeah.
thing for
So-
vlogs. Like you don't want to see like everything that's around you. Like don't be like me with the window behind me. Like that's like the main thing. But also like at the same time, do it at something that's going to like draw attention. Like do it at an
Right.
event vlogging. Don't do it when you're like having
Like you're
a
in the
normal
shop,
meeting.
whatever.
Yeah. So what
I
like are
think-
you interested in like making videos? Do you want like
Do you just want like input on
overviews?
how we do it?
Do you want
just like what do you feel is like the most valuable?
Right, okay, so, our media team is really lucky, she kind of explained that, but
Yeah.
at competitions, instead of being like an afterthought, we are just as much a portion of our team as all of the other portion. So right now, we have more kids than we did
Like
last year.
seven,
We
It's
have
six,
too
eight,
many,
nine
honestly.
kids who are just
last year.
media. And at these competitions, beforehand, in build season, we kind of break it up, so we say, all right, this person and this person are going to do this competition. And this person and this person are going to do this competition, and then the rest of build season, we'll have somebody making a video about a couple of subsystems, and then somebody else making a video about something else, another couple of subsystems. We'll also do Instagram videos to tell a little bit of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But for the most part, video production, a lot of what it takes at robotics competitions would be forethought. So we make shot sheets of saying, okay, we want B-roll of robots climbing HAB 3. Of our robot climbing HAB 3. We want an interview from this person about the HAB platform, about the HAB subsystem, so that when we're showing that B-roll of the HAB, we can layer the interview underneath it, so that the story is cohesive. So then we shoot on actual cameras. We have a Panasonic Lumix, and we have 2 Canon Rebel T2Is. The Canon Rebel series is really good for robotics. It's generally a cheaper camera that works well if you just get a solid lens.
The Panasonic is a little.
The Panasonic's wonderful for video.
It's really bad for photos.
Yeah,
but like especially if you're just starting off and you like don't want to spend that much money on a camera.
Oh yeah.
Right. So
like the Canon's probably the move.
You can also use your phone.
right.
Yeah, like
Big
because so many new phones, like the video quality is like if you're on YouTube, like
Yeah. Also,
you're not going to tell
iPhones
much
have
difference.
I got the iPhone 8 like a couple months ago, and I noticed that when you're taking video, if you stop, it doesn't jitter as it like it used to. It kind of smooths out similar to gimbal footage, which is weird. But it's like that auto stabilization for video is much better on iPhones now. So if you want to use your phone, you can do that as well.
Yeah.
But we take the interviews, we make sure that we have an idea of the story that we're going to tell, and we go through it like that. For Rant Riot, for the recap video, instead of doing interviews, we decided to do B-roll that tells a story. So whatever works for your team, if you can't get a mic or something, or whatever materials you need to do an interview, making sure that you can tell a story through B-roll.
You can even do
also
it like
great.
interviews after the fact, like if it's because obviously it's super loud at competitions, like
Yeah.
even like we have it because
You won't hear about it.
yeah, because like the background noise is a lot. Like we do have like a few mics, but
Mhm.
like if you don't have mics, like it would be very easy to just like take
Yeah.
someone like after the competition, just like pull them into a classroom and be like, hey, just talk about this. I mean, I know another thing is like obviously like, when you go into a competition, like you're never sure how exactly you're gonna do. Like especially like the first competition or two, like you don't know what's gonna break, you don't know like where your robot stands.
Mhm.
So like a lot of it's just being able to think on your feet and like kind of being aware of what's happening around you. So even if like at competition you can get a few people like maybe go off of scouting and like instead like take videos on their phone, stuff like that, just so that you can know like, oh, this thing broke, I need to go like take an interview with this person and like see what they think about that and just stuff like that. Because like obviously like, you know, I was in charge of our video from, we went to the Ben Salem competition last year, and like you can never really know beforehand what's gonna happen. Like you can have some ideas of like, you know what's important, like you know what parts of the robot like you worked hardest on, but like it's all about kind of like improvising.
I think just for the most part, like your media team should never be an afterthought. Part of our recruitment process for the team is we are equally advertising the robots, the programming, the electrical, the mechanical engineering, and the media team and the PR team. I joined the team for media and PR, not for robots. And I think you need students that are joining the team for media, not for robots, and then doing media just because it's what they like. You need kids coming in with a vision. So I think when you're marketing your team to your school or your community, wherever you are, your media team needs to be an aspect of that, or you're not going to get the kids that have the interest in it. And you don't want to pull kids away from engineering if that's what they want to do,
Yeah.
to take pictures, because they're not
Because those
gonna
pictures,
want to.
yeah, they're not gonna want
I
to.
don't want to build
like-
the robot, I want to take pictures of it. And
They're
if I
never
were
gonna
pulled
be
into
as
building the
inspired.
robot, I'd be mad. So I think you always want to make sure that you have kids with that vision, and you're not, you know, like making them do something they don't want to do.
So that's
Yeah. But there's also, I mean, the other aspect of media, typically, like when we talk about media, it's more like videography, photography, but there's equal parts the graphic design aspect. So our media training, you know, in the off season, you recruit all these kids, and there's the kids in the shop who are learning about prototyping, and then there are kids in the computer lab who are learning about programming, and then there are kids in the media space learning Adobe Illustrator, Adobe InDesign, Adobe Premiere for video editing, Adobe Lightroom for photo editing. There are kids learning how to build the website, and it's just as much a process as the building, because we get equal time to do it. So all of the sub-teams are being trained in that way, and you just have to make sure that your media team feels like they're as much a part of the team as the rest of the team, because they are. because the forefront of your team is your media team. Your robot would never be seen by the rest of the world if you didn't have media. So I think you can't undermine it. You have to recognize that you need it, and you can't go without it if you want to be super, super strong. But
Also, it's kind of like the weird cousin of the media group, but there is animation.
right, that's
So,
another thing after effects.
For anybody who has a computer, I recently found something that I really like, and the best part of it is that it's free. So, it's Krita, Krita. It's this animation site where you not only can like draw pictures, but like you can also like put on animation platforms with it. It comes in like English and Japanese. I found that out because I put it on the wrong setting one time. So with that, you can actually make like, I don't know if like you guys saw last year, but there was like the safety video where it's like all these like fun, cool, different ways to like spread information from like the team that made it. I forget what they were like. I still remember like the actual
No,
video.
I remember seeing the video of one of the
Yeah, where it's like the guy throwing all the stuff onto the battery. Where it's like,
We just, the deadline for this year's video was like this week, wasn't it?
So the safety animation, I've been looking at this. The safety animation, I'm not sure when it's due. The digital animation is due later. So from this year, it was the video of the girl doing the space thing where she's expanding and squishing space with stars and stuff. It was called like The Space is All Filled. You can make a stop motion animation. You could literally use MS Paint and you can draw every single frame and you can put it in Movie Maker. If you're interested in animation, there are so many ways to do it. I wouldn't recommend that, it'll take you forever, but if you want to, that's something you can do. But like, yeah, animation's super fun.
because like animation is always going to be a way where like if somebody's like afraid of a camera, or if like your team like doesn't want to be like seen personally like before, like animation is a way to like show your team without like physically showing your team. It's almost like an ingenious way of how to do it. And the best part of it is that you can have multiple people physically work on it. So like it isn't like a one person like taking a photo, but you can have like multiple people like working on the photo or working on the animation like frame by frame, and also coming up with the ideas as it comes along. Because like you can have somebody starting, let's say I'm just gonna stay on Deep Space because that's what's been on my mind.
Yeah,
Like have like a cool animation where you can put it on your like story, for example. Like you just have like an automatic saved animation where you're like the red team won, and it's just like a red rocket going by. Like you can have simple things like that, and it'll just almost like boost morale and like boost kind of like almost a cheerful feeling of your team. That's then going to be noticed, and then it's going to like kind of make everybody happier, especially if you win. Instead of like saying like, oh no, but like also still being like gracious at that point. But like it's gonna be like another way, instead of just like talking and taking pictures, but coming alive to people too.
Yeah, animation's something that's like, last year the students didn't do a ton of it because we were very small in comparison to other years. We had about 5 or 6 kids. But last year we would design the animations, and then the secondary media coach would put them into After Effects. And this is just one of them, like that's what I was pulling up right now. This is actually like the video on our media team. But this is like one of the Instagram videos that tells a story about our team that we're gonna build season. And like when you have those animations that can intro those videos, it just like it had some flair. Like Vulcan Robotics, if you had just like some Vulcan like fly across the screen with the title of the video, people remember it. So I think it's just something that helps a lot.
You started to talk about it, but what like software do you guys use to edit your videos and pictures?
We use Adobe Suite. But I think like Adobe is like a fairly like expensive software, and like there are like discounts for educational purposes, but like there's so much like free and low cost stuff out there. Like wait, Cass, what's the one that you use?
I
Like,
legally
it's like
own
Okay, never mind. So you can't advocate illegally downloading stuff, but it's something you can't do. But like, there's so much like less expensive stuff, even free stuff that you can find online or buy in stores.
just anything that has 2 tracks.
Yeah, you want
multi-track.
multi-track for
So you
video.
can have like interviews, and then you can have feedback.
I think
So, like, I
also
know-
another
Yeah,
thing.
the school Adobe platform is $18 a month.
Right. So
Yeah.
the thing with Adobe as well is this was another thing from the presentation that we had with our founder, but he mentioned how like things people care about, they will put their wallet towards it. So if your team values the media team, they should be allocating resources and funds to it, or at
It's
least they
like-
should be just acknowledging that it's there.
18 a
You
month
don't
is
need to,
nothing compared
yeah,
to the cost
you
of
don't
like,
need to put
other
$5,000
supplies.
towards your media team every year, but if you just make sure that they have a program that they can work
Yeah.
in, that's all you need to just exercise creative control over your team's brand. And so we use, for graphic design, we use Adobe Illustrator. I've used Photoshop like once for our buttons, but mainly
You don't really need
Yeah,
Photoshop
it's
that
mainly
much,
Adobe
like-
Illustrator, and the premise of it is similar to Photoshop.
Well, with the Adobe Suite, you get all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you could also check is it's possible that your school already has this license.
Yeah,
If
like
you
our
have an art
school,
department,
like we have like,
photography.
yeah, our art
right?
department does
So
have
they-
it.
They
Yeah.
may already have this stuff in the building,
Mhm.
where if you have computers, your own computers,
Anything if you.
they might, the school
might have
may,
assigned
it
or something.
may just
Yeah.
load it up for you.
But if
Or
you're,
you may go to go to the art department and say, can we use the computer after school?
I think if you're looking just like, cause that obviously, if your team like can't, like isn't able to get you like the Adobe Suite, really what you need to look for video editing is like multi-track editing, so you wanna be able to like layer 2 or 3 videos on top of each other and have multiple audio tracks too, so you can put in like noise from like a video, an interview and like music. So you want like 2 to 3 tracks, and then for graphic design stuff,
Oh, so this
you
is
want
separate, but like
vector, you want like a
you want
vector
vector-based,
based.
but you also, that's for more like branding and
Yeah,
logos and
like
stuff,
that's what we
but
do
then-
for all of our logo design and like, and we make buttons and stuff like that, like, so it's really just, instead of like manipulating an image, like you're manipulating like lines and stuff, like you're creating, like it's all shape based, it's not like you have to like
So you can
manipulate a
scale
photo.
that.
You can scale
So then
everything a lot
for
nicer.
The other aspect, media and PR kind of go hand in hand a lot on our team
Yeah.
specifically. And if you think about it like that, it's a lot easier to integrate to the team, because most teams, if not all, recognize that PR and their awards career, whatever they have, is important. If you tie media into it, which is very much so a similar thing,
Yeah.
it'll be accepted more. But we use, for PR materials, which our media team also helps to make, we use Adobe InDesign, which you can put text in, you can essentially, it's a link-based program, so you make spaces to put photos, you bring them in and they'll just stay there and you can relink them, and it's very different from Illustrator, but you can put Illustrator files in
That's what
InDesign.
we use for like our design binder
So,
mostly.
yeah, for the business plan, the design binder, brochures, for whatever the case, you typically use InDesign.
So that's how we're able to like keep our branding very consistent.
Adobe Lightroom is what we use for photography, because I know that a lot of like younger media teams will use just their phones and they'll just upload them to Instagram, which works perfectly well. We do have cameras though, so we use SD cards. So our media space, we have iMac computers that we import the SD cards into. We bring them into Lightroom, we edit them, and we post them to Flickr, and then we take the best ones and we post them to our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and our website. So we, instead of using Google Drive to store all of our photos, we use Google Drive as more of a means of like storing documents, planning our season, or brainstorming essays, whatever the case. And then we use Flickr to actually upload all of our finished and edited media.
To go back to the thing about InDesign super quick, like while InDesign is really like a great resource, again, like if you're not able to get Adobe, like I know I was on an FTC team for a year and we had like our engineering notebook thing, which is like really similar to like the design binder business plan, kind of like a fusion of that. And we use like, you can even just use like Google Docs, like so, like there's so much great free stuff online that like if you know how to use it and if you have like the patience to really like play with the formatting, play with the settings, like Google especially, like they have like an insane amount of like fonts and everything, and like there's a lot you can do in just Google Docs.
Yeah.
So like really the main thing that matters is like obviously having the resources is great, but like if you put the time into it, like you can
Yeah.
really get it done in anything.
So,
That's the big thing.
and once you have a solid brand established, it's definitely easier to come
Yeah.
onto a media team, because when I joined the team, obviously our media team had been well established for 20 years. We worked over 20 years to actually like get a brand going. So we have essentially a style guide with our primary colors, which would be like, the yellow and the blue, and then it would be secondary colors that we use on PR materials or on ramp shirts, whatever the case. And then we also have our fonts that we use for this, that, and the other thing, so that when we're building a team brand, nobody is typing on our website or nobody's typing on a poster in Times New Roman. We are always using the same fonts. We are always using exactly what our team is branded as, so that when you look at a material, even if our logo isn't on it, you know that it's our team as compared to like Vulcan's team. You would know the difference.
I think that might arguably be one of like the most important things, is just like keeping things consistent. Like just
This is
making.
who we've been talking about.
Yeah,
This
this
is
is
our
our
coach for media. We talked.
Oh, God.
We
Yeah,
talked
this is
like
a lot.
media. Yeah.
But yeah, the most
yeah.
important thing really is like keep a color scheme that's like consistent through yours. It's like consistent with your logo, so that like on all of your material it's like the same stuff. And like pick out fonts. Like I know we have like two mostly. We have like one for headings and then one for body, and like obviously there's like a few variations of like bold and like semi-bold and all that. But like you can get, obviously there's tons of fonts preloaded on on like every computer, but like Google Fonts I found is like a really great database. You can download just about every font on there for free, and there's a lot of really unique stuff on there. So I think like even with like just Google Docs and like the fonts and colors that you need, you can really just create a really good brand from that.
Yeah. Just think about it. I mean, yeah, like, just making sure that you do have consistency and you're allocating resources to making sure that that consistency is sustained. Because if you have a really good media team one year and
Then
you
they'll
make
graduate.
a really nice website and you get, you start something where you can upload all of your photos to it, and you have photographers at every competition making sure that you're covered, and then they either all graduate, or maybe they move sub-teams, or maybe something happens and you don't have that anymore, what are you going to do? Like, if you don't have the infrastructure in your team to uphold the sustainability of every sub-team, then, it's going to fall apart. So I think making sure that your media team is treated as like an extremely vital portion of your team is the only way to ensure that it's going to be upheld.
That's also another thing that you can do. You can always have groups and meetings of like how to teach tools, because like that's what at least Vulcan does during off season. We have almost like workshops where we're like, hey, if you're interested in this sub team, come
Yeah, we do
and
that
see
too.
what we're gonna do. Because when you teach people some tools, it's gonna do either three things. It's gonna teach them the basics and then make them want to learn more and practice more. It's either gonna make them stay at that level, but at least like make sure that they know it, or it's also gonna let them decide whether they want to be part of that sub team or not. Because if somebody doesn't want to be part of a sub team, especially like media, they're not gonna have any passion to like go forth and do it. Because like you have to have some passion, at least when you're taking like thousands of photos, and then you have to go through those thousands of photos again.
Yeah.
When you have to think, oh, I need to have a post about our sponsors and things like that. So I think it's important, especially early on, to teach people especially when you're not in build season, because build season you don't want to add more stress than what there already is, because especially if you have people that are in two sub teams at once, like if they're in mechanical programming or CAD, like you're not going to have like any time whatsoever with them. So always do media training off season and practice with off season events.
And I think like another aspect of the media team that should be emphasized to some extent is the ability to improve. Because I think with younger media teams, you typically have kids who are being pulled from build, or they don't have anything to do at a competition, and they're just taking pictures on their phone. And they think, okay, this like tells a story and then it's done, we're just gonna throw it on our Instagram or something. But I think if you emphasize that like true photography and true videography and whatever the case has proper exposure, you make sure that your composition is correct, you're telling a story, you're not just taking a picture, you're not just freezing time, you're actually explaining what's happening through a photo. I think that opens the gates a little more to creativity, because obviously kids are joining a robotics team so that they can be creative and that they can learn. And if you're on a media team that isn't telling you to try to do even better this time, or try to do this thing or the other thing, then those kids aren't going to have any passion to direct anywhere, and you're going to end up with photos that are dark and grainy, and you're going to have kids that just don't care. And if you at least show that there is something to be said about caring about this sub-team, then they'll take it wherever they need to take it. But even if you don't have the resources to allocate to it, showing that like putting passion there is worth it can go a really long way.
Yeah, I think to go back on training for a second, I think it's especially important to have like media training like as early into the season as possible. like I know we like let our rookies in like late mid-September-ish, and like we start our training like very soon afterward, because when a lot of kids join robotics, like they don't, no matter how much you promo like your PR, your media, like when kids think of joining a robotics team, they think like, oh, I want to program, I want to build, I want to CAD, like et cetera, et cetera. And they might be really good at media and really enjoy it, but just haven't had the chance to like try that and didn't really think about that when they joined. Like I know when I joined our team, like I went to one of the media sessions, like I thought I wanted to program, which is like funny thinking back on, like they're laughing. But yeah, like and I know the kids that we have like 3 or 4 rookies that I think are probably maybe gonna be like on
2.
media.
Like
2?
No, we have.
We have at least 3.
We have a number.
We
We
have
have a handful of rookies, and I know like not all of them joined specifically for media. So I think it's really good to like if you have those sessions early, like you can kind of pinpoint those kids before they get like too like caught up in like programming or CAD or anything else.
Mhm.
Like, how many people are on your team?
On our so I don't know how many people are. Do you know? How
We have,
like
like,
last year it was 58.
Or around that again?
Yeah, so around there again.
So I'm assuming you guys are smaller than that.
Okay,
Yeah, I
we,
think that's probably.
Which is why it's hard to allocate media kids, so it's like very
So
understandable.
like I guess it should.
our team has doubled in size since last year, and now we're up to
Alright.
26.
Hey!
Yeah. So I think like,
So, like last year, everyone was on every subgroup.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had to, because, yeah.
Yeah.
see, I think it's really just about like being proportionate, I guess, to the team size. Then I know since we are a bigger team, we're able to have like maybe like 5 or 6 kids be on like just primarily like media, PR, like awards, stuff like that. But like even if you just have like 1, maybe 2 kids whose focus is on like the public image, and like I know our media team, like we also like have we're working on like all the awards stuff and everything. So like even just having people like just 1 or 2 kids is really all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, these students here obviously are on our team this year, and we're a really big team. I don't know what was said before I came in, but I was on the team, and I was the media student, and the scout, and the chairman's, like, awards person way back in 2003. So, like, we didn't obviously have 60 students then. So, you know, it can be done with, you know, 1, 2, 3 people, and then those people can do other things at the same time too. You know, they don't always have to be taking pictures and video and stuff like that. But if you find those key few to do it, then you'll
Yeah,
be
like I'm
set.
excited this year because by going to 26, we may actually have like 3 or 4 people that are only going to be doing coding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we like, yeah. I mean, this is only my 2nd year doing robotics, and I'm the veteran mentor on the team this year.
Mhm.
And no, but you know, I've been going to a lot of the seminars, both this one and the one that Lenape did, a postseason
Right.
seminars that they, and the idea that, you know, it's not just 15 people in a room all the time, you know.
Right. Yeah.
That's the idea of breaking it down into different responsibilities is, I guess, one of the things that the team does is the chores.
Mhm.
So that, and like I said, it's kind of everyone's on the build team.
Mhm. Yeah.
When it comes to build season, even if it's just helping to keep things organized during build days, so that, because we even, like with our build team, people don't come every day to that. We have like different build teams just because you can't have 20 people working in the same spot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's, so yeah, I've been working on trying to like get, you know, into subgroups or, you know,
Yeah.
different working groups within the team,
Mhm.
so that people kids also have, that you know, that people want to be responsible for things and they want to be in charge of things, and I'm trying to hopefully kind of build that idea that people can become part of one of the groups and make a big contribution as part of the group,
Mhm.
even if they're not necessarily like, well, they can't do coding, or, you know, they're not that great with tools,
Mhm.
which, you know, that's something that comes with time. But, you know, the idea that they, you know, they're still making important contributions to the team as a whole. And so, also the idea if you can get several people, it's not everything on one person.
Mhm.
Because last year we had one person doing our coding, and it got very stressful at different times of the season because everything depended on him being able to figure out the problem. And the great thing this year is we got a coach who teaches a coding class, and so like, I'm hoping we have a coding group so we can, you know, get to that point where there's less stress on the single person. That it's a, you know, a shared workload.
Yeah.
So now in my school we're competing with about 19 other clubs and teams for the people that we have, and
What
it seems
school are you
like
guys
all
from?
Burlington Township. It seems like everyone who's on my team is in someone else's club or team.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We have a lot of too. But I think, I guess we must be a bigger school.
Yeah, I mean, we're a pretty good public school, but I think for the most part. What school are you from?
Oh, yeah,
we're
we're
like around the same size.
we're
I
around
think
the same
like
size.
for the most part, the kids that are on the team, this is like their like if a kid's on a swimming team, they can also be in like the class committee or something, but their team is their swim team. So that's the case for the robotics team for sure. It's like pretty much everybody mainly associates with this team.
At
so,
least,
like,
in like the winter
big.
during the season.
Yeah.
Like we have kids like I do band, there are kids who do like fall sports, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like during build season, like
Yeah,
you just
the struggle is doing anything off season for me right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the, you know, robotic season, I have them for that 3 months. They are fully committed. But once, you know, once the season ends, then it's baseball season, softball season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I think that's something that every team struggles with, like the off
Yeah.
season attendance, like
Mhm.
we have like hours requirements and people still don't meet them.
We have also a sport requirement with ours, like that's how we got ours, cause they tried to do a guinea pig year, and it actually worked, it was like the first time it actually worked where, the theater club and the robotics club, you now count as one of the forced sports credits that you need to have to graduate.
Wow.
You need
That's
to
awesome.
What?
Yep. you
What
need-
school are you?
Springside.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
You need 2 sports credits a year, but then your senior year you need
A
1.
year?
Yeah, a year.
That's crazy.
So like, people do like, you do soccer in the fall, and then in the winter, you then do the,
Is that like in place of like a gym class or like, it's just an extracurricular requirement?
Just something
It's a requirement, just like you need it.
How many people are in your school?
K through 12, a little over 1,000.
So that explains why, because
'Cause
your school is afraid that their sports teams will have nobody on
Yeah,
them.
we have,
Or
like,
just
yeah, we have,
that-
like-
That's completely
Yeah.
why.
Like
Yeah.
my graduating class,
Yeah.
our graduating class is like 350-ish kids.
Yeah, our
Like,
high school like is like a
12,
around
it's like
12
1,300 kids. It's like a bigger school, I guess.
Actually, the big thing that worked out for us is when the team was established, it was established as a team and not a club.
That's
Yeah.
good.
And so we actually, the great thing about that is, well, one, we're a lot safer,
Yeah.
budget-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And ours count, like in our school, we count, I think it's a handful of non-athletic groups as like teams, so it's like robotics, I think marching and jazz band, debate, FBLA, I
Hopefully
think.
model you in the future.
Hopefully model you in the future,
Mhm.
but I think those are like the big 5.
The athletic director doesn't know it yet, but I'm gonna push for varsity letters.
Yeah, so that's the thing that always
I wish we
strikes
got
me
varsity
weirdly
letters. We
because
should get varsity letters.
our team, you're dedicating like an exuberant amount of time to the team, just as much as you would dedicate to a sports team, and you don't get a varsity letter.
Our football team
Yet the
goes
marching
like,
band gets one, which like makes sense because they move.
Yeah.
But we also spend even
Our
more
I've
time.
been
football
on-
team goes like
I've been
0-8
on
every
varsity band,
season.
They do a great.
Yeah, let them go to like one good event.
Yeah, so we
Yeah,
like
host
the
our
end of
off
the day,
season,
I
right?
racked up like
Always
this
go to
20
Yeah,
Raisins.
our football
Also,
team
now
wins.
it's
Our football team like
Wins
loses
nothing.
Yeah, our
Wins
football team
nothing.
loses every game and they get varsity letters.
We're
like,
like
we're
inarguably the
here,
most
like-
successful team in the school, and they're just like,
Yeah, we're here like
consistently
working our butts
successful.
off, like getting like
And
we
they're just
won
like, I don't
some
know.
sort of award at every competition but Worlds. Like I know we got like we didn't win the competition, but we got like entrepreneurship and then we got gracious professionalism at one.
Quality award.
Which is which is the good awards. But like it's more than like we have like 2 good sports teams.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
like, when you guys like made your team like a technically like sports team, like what did that do to like
That
so,
was
okay.
a hot minute ago, I think. That was, I think, before any of us were on the team. None of us were on the team before, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
none of us were on the team before Power Up.
So like with that was kind of like I was kind of in the loop because how we worked, at least in my school, like it became a feeder. So like we had FLL, junior FLL, and then we just added FTC. So like you kind of heard what was happening. With it, it mainly started as a club. That's how it mainly started. And except when you move up from a club to like an activity or an extracurricular, in schools you just get more funding, and you also get more publicity that way because then you're in a different section of like the school, because schools can be like, oh yes, there's clubs and everything, but like usually when people think of clubs, they think of like student-led clubs that are like in the corner of the library. So like when you say it's an extracurricular activity or event, like it raises it so much, not only financially, but like almost for it seems important, so then people are gonna remember it because there's just less in the group of extracurricular classes.
I think a lot of us do with, I think, membership. Like, you know, when our team started, it was like, what, I think we said 16, something like 16, 15 kids.
I think like you were getting into it like a little bit with the fundraising efforts and like getting a little more money. In good media teams, I think are an integral portion of getting sponsorships or something of that nature, like getting a grant or something. Like telling a story through photos is a lot easier than telling a story through a 5-paragraph email.
Like if you Google a team and like there's nothing there online except for like something on the school website that says like, oh,
Or, like,
this
the Blue
exists,
Alliance or
or like the
something.
Blue Alliance, something like that. Like that's not going to make anyone want to give you money.
Yeah, getting sponsors wasn't a big priority for the team either. I mean, we're fortunate the school sponsors us through districts.
Yeah.
But if we make it to a regional, we won't go.
Yeah.
Unless we can raise about $8,000. Now, but through, like, you know, doing the things, you know, taking the extra care, to do the website, to do the newsletter, to do all this stuff, this is stuff that costs us no money at all because it's all electronic.
Yeah.
But we send it all to the sponsors that we do have, and it looks like we're doing a lot for them. Like, we got a sponsor that started with us last year, and they doubled their sponsorship money for this year because of they were just basically the only thing that cost any money we got on a T-shirt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was, you know, so it cost us very little money to cater to them, but all this effort is paying big dividends and what we're getting the sponsorship money.
Yeah.
I hate to cut it off there, but it's time.
Yeah, it's time. All right. Well, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was cool.
Where are you going?
Where?
It's like that first thing.
Yeah, where is that?
Anybody else going to scouting?
Oh,